Hi, I'm Craig from Greenwich Films and welcome to Greenwich's Script Tips, the place where new writers can learn all about script writing and what elements need to go into their stories and scripts. We'll be looking at everything from how to structure your scripts through index cards, how to write certain themes into your stories, and what makes a good script. So if you want to keep up to date with what we're going to be talking about, hit that subscribe button. So in our next video, we're now going to be looking at key beats. The beat is a moment in a script that propels the story forward and keeps the audience intrigued whilst wondering what will happen next. Some beats can be obvious while others will be subtle. Think of your three acts as something delicate and fragile, and the beats are used to stop them from breaking. If you don't place your beats in the right place, your act will become unbalanced and the script will come crashing down. You will need to learn how to best utilise your key beats so that they can act as strong foundations for you to keep your script stable so you can add to it. There are 6 key beats you need to be aware of: the opening, the inciting incident, the first act break, the midpoint, the second act break, and the climax. Before you start writing out your key beats, you need to make sure you know what problems your protagonist needs to be solving. These are known as Problem A, or the global problem, and Problem B, the local problem. A will help make sure you hit your beats just right. Problem A is what your protagonist wants or needs to solve across their journey to fix a global problem. This is usually introduced in the middle of the first act along with the inciting incident. Problem B is what your protagonist needs to solve to help accomplish solving Problem A. This is usually introduced as a break from the first act and into the second act, or more commonly known as the second act goal. For example, in Star Wars, Problem A, the rebellion needs to destroy the Death Star. Problem B, Luke needs to deliver the Death Star plans to the rebellion. If Luke doesn't deliver the Death Star plans to the rebellion, Problem B, then they can't destroy the Death Star, Problem A. There are many ways to start writing a script. You can start with a prologue, which is separate to the main events and will be referred to back later on in the film. You can get straight into the action, or you can have a gradual introduction to the characters and the world that they live in. However differently you open your script, one thing will exist in all great openings. That is, an introduction to a flawed character or world, an introduction to the themes and the stakes for the protagonist. Get Out introduces a flawed world where people of colour are being kidnapped but nothing is seemingly done about it. It's a battle that the protagonist Chris must overcome to balance the world in which he lives. It also becomes relevant later on in the film. It's a script we highly recommend reading. Vertigo introduces the flawed character as a police officer, Scotty. He's chasing a suspect across rooftops and he discovers he has acrophobia and vertigo. It's a personal battle that he must overcome if he is to be successful. The incited incident is probably the most important beat in the first act. It's what sets your story and your character on their journey. It changes the way that they see the world, it changes how they see themselves, and it quite often, but not exclusively, is the worst possible thing to happen to the character. It is also the earliest moment in the script that the stakes need to be jeopardised. It doesn't need to start here, but any threat to the stakes can't appear earlier. Inception has Cobb be given a dangerous job offer, but he needs to take it if he wants to see his kids again and be free from a life of crime. This is Inception's Problem A, as it's the global goal of Cobb. The graduate has Mrs. Robinson's affair offer to Benjamin. This gives Benjamin conflict as he's against the idea of it initially, but after a while he decides to take her up on the offer. This is also the film's Problem A, as Benjamin's overarching journey revolves around his desire to find happiness and a different future than the one people want for him. American Beauty has Lester see his daughter's friend Angela for the first time. Albeit controversial, it's a great catalyst for changing Lester's world. It changes the way he sees himself and the way he acts in the world. This is also Problem A, as it sparks Lester's enthusiasm for self-improvement. After your character is presented with an inciting incident, there's a period of the script where they deliberate on whether or not they should take the offer presented before them. In classic fairy tales, this part of the story comes under The Quest Begins. It's when your protagonist sets off on their journey. It also, but not exclusively, is the start point for your Problem B. This is what carries your story through the second act, or more commonly known as the second act goal. In Vertigo, Scotty is reluctant to take the PI job offer from his friend, but after seeing his case subject, he mulls it over before setting off on his journey. Scotty's B problem is his eventual infatuation with Madeline. Parasite sees the Kim family successfully infiltrate the Park household as workers. They're on their journey to financial prosperity. The Kim's problem B is the maintaining of the lie and the constant reminder of their previous life, cleverly done through the use of smell. This is where things reverse for your character and the setback deepens the stakes. It also shows how they have to change direction to complete their journey, sometimes literally. This might include seeing an inner flaw. Star Wars has a clever reversal of fortune. Up to this point, Luke has joined with Obi-Wan and they're on their way to deliver Death Star plans to Alderaan. This is until the Death Star shows up and blows up Alderaan. This sets our characters back, as they're now drifting towards the Death Star with no sign of delivering the plans to the rebellion. Parasite also has a clever twist at the midpoint. The Kims are currently enjoying the luxuries that the Park household has to offer when the Parks go away for a weekend. That is until the old cleaner turns up wanting to claim something that she forgot to take with her when she was dismissed at the hand of the Kims. This sets the Kims back, as they come to realise that the old cleaner had been living in the basement with her husband. She makes the connection that the Kims are all related and threatens to expose them to the Parks when they return home.
여보, 이 전송 버튼이 완전히 무슨 미사일 버튼이네. 버튼만 누른다 그러면 전향반들 꼼짝을 못 하잖아.
We'll go into more detail about the breakdown of the third act later, but for now we'll focus on how to break from the second act and into the third act. The beginning of the third act is usually where a resolution for problem B occurs. This is where your character has addressed the local problem, which in turn forces the stakes of problem A. Star Wars has a clever second act break. They deliver the Death Star plans to the rebellion, problem B has been solved, but a tracking device was placed on the Millennium Falcon, forcing the rebellion to act fast, otherwise they face destruction from the Death Star, problem A. The Graduate is Benjamin preparing himself for his marriage to Elaine. He has solved his problem B of happiness by finding someone he can connect to and not just have empty sex with. However, this is threatened when Mr. Robinson turns up and says he's taken Elaine away from Benjamin so that they can't be together. Problem A. It is reinforcing the notion that happiness isn't what's necessary for relationships to function. Benjamin has come so close to securing his different future and he's going to lose it. Unless... Again, more detail on how to get from the second act break to the climax will be revealed later, but for now we'll focus on what the climax is. The climax is your film's solution to problem A through a decisive act, and it sets up the end of the film. The Graduate provides one of the best endings. Benjamin goes against the wishes of the Robinsons and decides to crash Elaine's wedding. It forces Elaine to make a decision whether to be married to a man she doesn't love or to be with a man that she does. She ultimately chooses Benjamin, which resolves the film's problem A. In American Beauty, Lester decides not to have sex with Angela, as that's not what he wants, as well hopefully for ethical reasons too. He's no longer the sexually frustrated, downtrodden, middle-aged man he was when he first met her. He realises that his self-improvement wasn't to impress Angela, but to become a better version of himself, resolving problem A.